Hey guys, TerrorPUP here, and I have finished getting OpenMediaVault running on my Argon EON. It's a beautiful case, as you guys saw in the last video. Sorry it was a little bit long, but I'm quite happy with what I got done. Um, there was a lot of additional stuff I did after I got the case together. And had I recorded it, we're talking like a video would been 4 hours. So as you can see from my screen, Open Media Vault is running. This is the default message that gets written to Etsy issue. And when you first log into it, it's going to want you to change the admin password, and I've already done that. But I want to show you guys what I did to get this up and running to help you guys save time. So there's a few things that you need to do. First of all, you need to run sudo raspberry config, and if you can, you need to set a static IP. You can run dynamic, but it's a lot better when you have a static. If you saw one of my live videos, you know that I've been working to get infrastructure set up. So I have a DNS server. If you're running Pi-hole, you could put a static IP in there with a host name and use that as your resolver, and it'll work just fine. So if we go under systems and we go down to host name, okay, this is where you will go and set your host name up so that you can find it. Okay. Once I did that, I had to go and to advance, and I went and switched my network config, okay, from being from static. Hold on. Get back into this. Sorry about that. Into advanced options and down to network config. And it's not let me change it, but you will want to send it to use network management. And the reason you want to do that is so that you can use the network management TUI utility. It makes it a lot easier than having to go and use Vim or Nano to update your config file. Okay. The other thing that I need to do was go into localization, and I needed to set up a time zone for where I live, and I needed to change it from British English to American English, and my keyboard to from British to American, and lastly set my WAM IP, or sorry, my WAM localization to US2. Once I got all that done, it made it a lot easier using my keyboard. Okay. And then once you get that done, the next thing you're going to want to do that a lot of people don't realize is you're going to want to run app update, app upgrade, so you can get it up to the latest and greatest. And then once you do that, okay, you're going to want to run app install wget curl, okay, so that way you can actually run the command. All right. And I'm not running it as sudo, so remember, you want to do run sudo and it will work. Well, it helps if I type sudo right, but you want to run sudo, and once you get that, then let's just show you. Hit the all caps, and then once you do that, okay, it's let's go ahead and become root real quick so I can show you guys. Then once you run that, you're going to run, if you look at number 14, you will run curl and then pipe it to bash. And if you're wondering, like, well, TerrorPUP, you have 2 curl commands there. Part of the reason I'm recommending that you go into your locale and set your stuff is, by default, the keyboard is set to British English, and under British English, the key for pipe is a tilde, okay? And then, again, you know, once I got everything, the localization, all that, it ran just fine. And that's going to take, you know, a couple minutes to set up, okay? Again, the other thing I did was I went ahead, like I told you guys, and I set up my static, and using Network Manager UI, which got removed. Well, that sucks. I was able to go in there and set my static, and was able to get it up and running. And believe it or not, I did have, I don't think it's still going to work, but we can try it real quick. But I did have 2 IPs on here. And it got removed. But at least I have the static on ETH0. Okay. And if you're wondering what that 172.16.16 is, that is Docker that gets set up, okay, once you run it. So again, getting the OS up to date, making sure you have curl, making sure the localization for your language and things like that is very key. And then once that's done, okay, then we can go into the GUI, and I'll show you that now. All right, so now we're going to come over, and I'm going to type in https nas01 softmeta.org, and this is in the DNS server that I set up on Red Hat, and this is also in my Pi-hole. And again, if you're using stuff in the house, it's really good to have DNS. If not, what you'll do is you'll go to http:// the IP of your OpenMediaVault. And once you do this, okay, now I'm getting a warning because I have set up a cert. It's not a real cert, it's a self-signed cert. But you'll go in and you'll have your login window. And then again, if you set up and it's fresh out of the box, you'll use the default password, which is OpenMediaVault all one word. Okay. I recommend that you go change it unless it's just easier for you to keep it that way. But, and then once you do that, you're going to come in and you'll have a whole list of items. Again, I didn't want to have a super long video. So the first thing I did was I went in and I set up dashboard. Dashboard is the first thing you hit when you come into OpenVault Media. And then with that, okay, I can see my CPU, I can see my utilization. Went ahead and set up file systems, and you're not going to see file systems until you actually go through and set up some stuff, and I'll show that to you here in a couple minutes. And then, load memory. And I'm kind of concerned about that because, again, I thought I was using a 4 gig board, but it's a 2 gig board. It's working okay, but if I do want to run Docker containers on this, I definitely want to get an 8 gig. And then there's my internet, okay, the static, and then it shows all the devices. These are the services that are up and running, okay? And then over here, just general information, okay? You can run OpenMediaVault on other small board computers. I actually have on my bookshelf behind me that you guys may have seen. It's in like a Nook-like case, but I'm actually using a Libra computer Renegade 4 gigs that I run it on, and it works quite nice. The only downside to it is that's a 1 terabyte hard drive, so I can't store a lot there. And it was mainly set up so that I would have like a NAS on the go. I can power it off, plug it up, and then use it. So this has been up for 18 hours. Okay, I have been doing some reboot, local time, things like that. The other thing on your dashboard I'm going to recommend you set up is the updates, because this is nice because you can come in and click on it. I'm not going to do it now because if I did, it would go through and apply it and reboot it, but it's just simple. You would go click here, you would hit the arrow here, and it would go through and update it for you. So that's a nice feature, okay? So that way you're not wondering. And then I went ahead and add it to my dashboard containers, because eventually if I run like Jellyfin or Plex or some other type of Docker container, I can see what the status is right here. Okay, next, system. Workbench is where you're going to set up if you want to use a cert. Most people, it's probably overkill. I use one out of habit because I just want to make sure things are okay. Sorry about that. Kind of cold here in Georgia today, so I'll show you guys where I created the cert here in a second. But once you have a cert, you can tell it to use it, and then you'll use 443. I'm doing what's known as a redirect. So I hit 80 and it forces it go to 443. If not, if you ever wonder why you're not seeing your cert, that's why. And you can actually, well, it's just best to do that. Next, I went ahead, like I told you guys, I'd set up the time zone using Raspberry config, and from there, I got my time zone. It's using a pool, which it means if you ever did like a NTP update, to that pool, you would see that there were several servers there. I went ahead and said, you know what, let's have this as a time or an NTP server or time server on my network, because that's always good, so I can actually point a lot of these small board computers to it, and they can get updated. Okay. Notifications, I don't have a mail server set up, but once I do, I will come in here, and this is nice. So if you needed to go through and wanted to send alerts to you, it can, and it's very nice. Right now I do have one notification, and it's the update that we showed earlier. Okay, and then you can click here to tell it what events. CPU usage, if it's suddenly using high, if your file system's getting full, if your load suddenly peaks, memory usage. But the one I'm going to recommend for you to really have set up is your smart and your software RAID. And the reason that is if you ever have issues with a hard drive, this is good to have. Okay. I did not do anything with power management, but you can go in here and have it power down. So if you don't want this running every night, you could tell it to power it down. You could tell it if idle and things like that. So mine's going to run 24/7. Modern monitoring is where I have told it to go ahead and install a bunch of stats. Once you do that, if you come down to diagnose, you will have a whole bunch of charts that will show up. Okay, if I go into reporting, it will show me all the stuff that's going on, and under statistics, you get these nice little RRD charts. Okay, and there's not really much to tell because this is new, but if you're a person that likes statistics, it's great. So that is something, again, if you want to set up scheduled tasks. If you were using like ZFS and you wanted to do a weekly scrub, that is something you can do. If you wanted to do updates, maybe you're going to set up a torrent Docker container and you want it to turn on and turn off, you could put it there. Certs is where I told you guys I set up. And I got two. I'm currently using this one. This one, let's go ahead and delete it because I really don't need it. What happened was this set up with the IP. I wanted to use a common name because eventually, if I can find a document on Let's Encrypt, I'm going to actually try to use a real cert. So we'll go ahead and hit that and delete. Okay, and we'll hit apply configuration. Now you're going to be doing a lot of this where if you make changes into the workbench and you hit save or you hit delete, it is going to want you to apply it. Okay, down here, the update management, again, is where we'll run updates. And the last thing that I was doing was I was installing, okay, plugins. So as you go through here, you'll see there's some stuff installed. This is so I can run Docker, CPU temp. Okay, you can have downloaders, and there's lots of little things you can install. I just wanted to set up base stuff. I wanted, if you were running this on an x86, you could run verts on it. That's what this is here. Okay, and it's a nice little utility. So, and in OVM extras is where you can install backports and things like that onto your system. Networking. All right, this is where you can set your host name here. I recommend that you do it through Raspberry config. But once you do that, you can come in here and set up a static. Now, what's interesting is I told you guys I had a second, I had the WAM up and running, but right now it is down. I should try to get it up and running again. That way I can use this on 2 networks. Okay, but for right now, I'm happy that it's here. Proxy is if you have this behind a proxy server that you can get to it, and you would put in your host and things like that. And you can apply firewall rules if you want to. Since this is in my little home lab, I'm not worried about that. All right. The other thing I had to do offline was I needed to create an array. And an array is where you take a group of disks and you put them together in what's known as a RAID configuration. Because this only uses 2 drives, I went ahead and said use RAID 0, which means stripe, which means if you have, in my case, the 2 4 terabyte hard drives, you tell it that I want to use both of those together, and I'll have a storage pool now of 8, close to 8 terabytes. The other thing that I discovered, if you notice, there's the USB stick that we put in there, but there's a 500 gig SATA SSD. So not only could I put the 2 4 terabytes, but if I had 2 large 2.5 hard drives, or in this case SSDs, or I could plug those in there. So I probably wouldn't recommend it because, like I said, it's going to be a lot of heat, and heat does destroy hard drives. But anyway, I do have a Micro Center inline SSD 512 gigabyte that I picked up from Micro Center, and it's their professional line, and normally they sell those throughout the year for around $30. So I put that in there to see if I can use it, and it is working. Okay, and then here is where you would run smarts, so that if hard drives are failing, you can come through and it will give you a report. Right now, it only picks up the well, actually, this is a USB drive that I got plugged into the back of it, but the drives have to have smart enabled. Okay, and you can go through here and click this, hit save. Okay, it's gonna pop up here in a second. Then I need to apply it. And this is a great tool to monitor your hard drives, because if you start having a drive that starts showing a lot of sensory errors, that means the drive is going to die. So again, if you notice up above earlier, I did have it showing. So if we go back in here now, we're only still getting the 1. That's fine. All right. File systems is where if you're using a drive that already has a file system, you can go ahead and come in here and click on it and mount it. This is the array that I created. Okay, the RAID 0, and as you guys can see, it's 7 terabytes. This is the operating system, and this is the SSD that's in there. I used fdisk on the command line to create a file system. So all I would have to do is I can come up here, hit create, okay, point it to that directory, and then I can pick out what file system I want to use, and it'll use it. Now, just to show you how, guys, if you have something that's running, so we're going to select the SSD card for right now, and we're going to come in, hit save. It will go through and it will add it. Okay, and it's that simple. And now it's part of your configuration once you hit apply. I'm going to go ahead and say undo right now because, again, I'd like to eventually see if I can boot from my USB drive so that I'm not running off of a SSD. All right. Once you do that, you need to come in and create your folders where you're sharing out stuff. So because I work with a lot of small board computers, I created a share called images where I'm writing my images. And if you come back over here real quick, you can see that I have been loading up files to it. Okay. The other thing that I created was a folder called media. You can create it however you want, but up underneath media, now I'm putting all my raw and finished videos there so that I'm not filling up my PC that I'm recording on. The other thing I could do is I could, if I wanted to, come over here and connect to one of my super micro machines that's running TrueNAS and add another storage to this area. I don't know if I can share that out. I'm going to play with it. I just noticed that I could do remote mounts, and that's going to be useful because if this ever gets full, my super micro servers have close to 18 terabytes. And yes, the whole goal is one day to have this one replace those, but for now, I could tie to those. All right, lastly, the next thing we need to do is make sure we got services up and running. Compose is where I can install images, okay? And there's going to be a little bit of work to do there. I need to set up an area where I can store the data for my Docker images, and then I can install them. Okay, file browse is where I can just do quick file browse on the device. NFS is where I can mount this from my Linux servers. NFS is a lot easier to set up than Samba or CIFS. So I probably, maybe down the road when I get bigger hard drives, I might set this up where I can, and get the 8 gig Raspberry Pi, set it up like I do where I can run verts off of it, especially with my small board computers. rsync is where, again, I could set this up to do a sync between this little NAS and my micro servers. And then, of course, I got Samba set up since my PC that I'm recording with right now is Windows. I have been doing some OBS with OpenSUSE, and I'm hopefully going to be doing more with that. But right now, I got guests allowed because I just want something simple that goes in there and works. This is my images and stuff like that. SSH is enabled, so I can SSH from my PC to it. Okay. All right, and the last thing I did is I set up another user. Okay, and then this right here is the default user, and if you notice, it's got all these groups. So if you're going to use this with multiple family members, you probably want to make sure that they're in appropriate groups. This user here is just so that I can get into it. Okay. As a backup. And then lastly, again, I showed you guys that I have setup monitoring, and that's down here. Okay, and then right now, I can go through and do some diagnosis. So if I was having some problems where I couldn't get to something and I'm wondering why, I can go through here and connect. This is the station that I'm on. Okay, and right now I don't have encryption turned on, but if I was being a lot more secure, I would do that. There's the username that I'm using, and then these are the connections right now I have going on. So that's it. There's not a lot in OpenMediaVault, not like true TrueNAS. So I can see why a lot of people like this. It's something simple, and you can go in and get it up and running. So this is to show you guys now on my desktop, once I got everything set up, how I'm accessing stuff. Okay, so I already have two file or Windows Explorers open. Okay, one on the left is my PC, one on the right shows available computers on my network that I could store to. This is my Banana Pi R2 Pro that is running OpenWRT that I was trying to get Samba set up. It's a little bit tricky. If you really want something to set up storage that you can use in-house, the OpenMediaVault is probably the easiest go. The TrueNAS that you see here is the server that's running in the other room with the 18 terabytes of storage, so I can access it. So once you get your stuff set up, you could either come in, since I have a host name, it's broadcasting out on my network. And I did have to tell Windows 10 to look for it, and Windows 11 will do the same. But if you don't have that turned on, you can come over here and do / 192.168.107.199. Your IP address will be different. And then you can go to your EON that way. And then as you guys can see, I do have folders shared out. Home folder is going to be the same as the user folder. I don't know why it puts it out twice, but right now, okay, this is the user I'm logged in as, and I can access files. These are the two shares that I showed you guys earlier. This is where I'm putting my videos as I get them completed. Okay, this is all the raw footage, and believe it or not, there are tons of mistakes where I go through, and there's a lot of stuff I can't use. Maybe one day I will have a constant loop of me cursing as I'm doing these files. Who knows, maybe that'll be a top video. But anyway, so you can come through here and get stuff set up. Now, the one thing that it does do that I may go back and fix, it does put both user folders or both users under whatever your main folder is. Okay, so something to keep in mind. All right, but once I get into those, the other thing that I like to do, and you might not, is I like to come over just so that I know that I have a connection anytime I log in. I come over here and do a right mouse click, tell it to Mac a network drive, and then I select where I want it, and then I hit finish. And going forward, every time I need to access it, I know that the iDrive will be my image, the end drive will be where my media is. And that's only because, as you guys can see, I do have something on M, and that's the super micro that I told you running TrueNAS. And you can mount either using a server name or IP. But that's it, guys. Like I said, I have another piece in my infrastructure set up that's going to help. And if you guys have watched my live, I've done a couple live shows, or they're not shows, live casts, where I'm sitting there and I'm working on my home network and showing you guys what's getting set up. Because this little network that I'm setting up is going to be all SBCs. Yes, the super micro is not an SBC, but for the most part, I'm hopefully going to have everything that I need running on a small board computer. As soon as I can get this 32 gig Orange Pi that I got up and running, I'm actually thinking about taking some of my verts and running on it and not use the Proxmox server that I have, but I'm going to probably keep it anyway. But anyway, that's it for this video, guys. This is TerrorPUP. Until next time, peace. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And I really hoped that in the new year that you guys do awesome stuff with your home labs. Peace.